Welcome, my smart lovers and friends, to this community built just for you. My name is LaDonna. I am the founder of Smart Love Inc. This is for married, single, divorced, anyone that wants to create happy, healthy, loving, enriching relationships. Make sure you share with a friend or two or three. Let's continue to grow together. I need everybody that is watching to go ahead, like, love, share, subscribe this post. We need to get this message out to more people. You know, we're quick to share all the negative stuff out there. So whenever some positive stuff come across your screen, share it with the same enthusiasm. You know what I'm saying? Like let's change the narrative. I like to drop a little game before we get into our discussion. I'm about to lace you up. But yeah, go ahead. I told you in the introduction and in the last one, make sure you bring your notebooks, your journals, your pens, your pencils, because this is free game that we're giving. Okay. So you need to take notes. Okay. This is not for play. Too far. Okay. All right. So today our subject is when to hold them and when to fold them. Okay. We're talking about mastering the art of making smart love decisions in our relationships. Okay, I already defined smart love for you all, but for those of you all that missed the first day of class, smart love is an intellectual, logical approach to love that focuses on building relationships that are not only emotionally fulfilling, but also resilient, adaptive, and mutually enriching. Okay, it's all about learning from your mistakes and from the mistakes of others. That's why we come on here, we share our experiences, we're transparent, and everything that we do is really to help inspire the true love and the relationships that we all want. Even if we have not experienced it yet, we learn from each of our past experiences. So that's what this is all about, learning. Okay. So the last show, I didn't really go into the key principles. So I'm going to just kind of skim through them really quick, just give you the key principles of smart love. So whenever we're talking about smart love, you know what we're talking about. Okay. We're talking about self-awareness. We're talking about recognizing your needs, your desires, how you show up in your relationships, your beliefs, your past experiences. That is very important. That's really one of the key milestone principles of smart love. Okay. It's about being intentional, engaging in relationships with clear understanding of your objectives, your expectations, and communicating them. Okay. Communication is just as important as being self aware and being intentional. You want to be able to prioritize open, honest, and effective communication. Express how you feel, your thoughts, and clearly listen to others. Just this is how you foster those deep connections. Very important. Emotional intelligence is very important to smart love. Developing and utilizing emotional intelligence to manage both your own emotions and your partners when you're in a relationship. This includes showing empathy, being able to regulate your own emotions, so you're not just flying off the handle at every trigger that you come across, and just being able to handle conflicts constructively, applying problem solving skills, being able to balance. Sometimes in relationships we're so deeply embedded in them that we forget about ourselves. So it's important in a smart loving relationship is to have balance. You want to show mutual respect and appreciation for each other, and you want to be committed to grow. That's what smart love is. Okay. I know sometimes like it seems like with when I explain it, it's like, okay, you're taking like all the romance out of it. It's too, you know, rigid. It's too, in between. Okay, no, we've done it the other way, right? We're out here on emotions. We out here, just just flying by the seat of our pants. But what if we actually took a logical approach to some of our relationships? Like, let's just try it and see how it works for us. Okay. That's what it's all about when it comes to smart love. So, this topic today, I'm super excited to talk about this because, oh, it's just, sometimes when you're in it, and I know we're all at different phases of this, knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. Um, but it's just there's just so many perspectives that we can have on this, and oftentimes, like, hindsight, of course, is 2020. So until you're out of it, you don't really, you can't really see your way through it. But it's very important that we have tools that are available that can help us navigate relationships, and knowing when to stay and when to put all your energy and all, everything that you need to do to save that relationship, and when it's time to let go, and when you need to, make that decision that this is not working for you. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. We're going to share some of our own personal experiences. I'm going to share just, a few ideas. Now, this is everything that I'm sharing. Like, you can, what do they say? Eat the meat, throw out the bone, or whatever. Just grasp what it is that you need to hear from this message. But this is definitely my opinion. This I'm actually pulling from some different resources, but I'm really giving you game, and it's up to you to be able to apply it in the way that you need to for your life. Okay, knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. So, the first thing we need to do, and this is kind of what we touched on in our last session, is self reflection. It's important to reflect on our past relationships. This will help us reveal like different, valuable insights into what our personal preferences are, what are our deal breakers, different behavioral patterns that we're attracting, all the things that shape our relationship dynamics. So, first thing I want you to do, I want you to write down these questions, and these are questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay, going into, it could be in your current relationship or going into the next, or um, at whatever points you are, but you need to ask yourself, what qualities do I value most in a partner? Number one. Which behaviors or traits are unacceptable to me? Like, what are your deal breakers? It could be dishonesty. It could be, physical abuse. It could be, um, how you treat your children, how you treat my children, how you treat me. Like, but what are your actual deal breakers? Then it's time to look at yourself. How do I own my reactions? How do I react to certain things? What is my communication style? What are actions that I can take that contribute to the overall dynamic of my relationship, and that can somehow cause problems and conflicts? So those are three questions that you ask yourself during the self-reflection. And then I want you to think about personal boundaries. What are the guidelines that, if someone crosses that line, what are your limits? What boundaries do you set for yourself? Do you set boundaries in your relationships currently? Maybe that's something that you need to start if you don't. The reason why personal boundaries are important is they actually help you assert what your needs are, what your values are. And if you don't set those boundaries and you just kind of you have these silent expectations, and it causes conflicts in your relationships, you really can't blame the other person because you didn't set those boundaries, right? So that's something to think about when you actually are reflecting on, how you're going to handle whether you're going to stay or leave a relationship. Like, if you don't have those boundaries, like, you really can't hold anyone to them. So So the role of personal boundaries, of course, is for protection. That's to protect your emotional, your physical, and your mental well-being. That helps you to self-identify, creating a sense of identity that defines, who you are personally, your values, your needs, your wants, your limitations. Very important, and it creates mutual respect. Okay, you have boundaries and your partner will have boundaries. So if you communicate them, that helps you establish mutual respect between the two. And when someone is crossing over that boundary, like they had the information that, hey, this is a boundary of mine. And if you choose to cross over it, then that can be a result of how I'm reacting the way that I react. So very important. And as I'm going through this, like, this isn't a dissertation. So anybody want to like chime in, throw something in, you got a comment, question, whatever, please feel free to do so. Same, and that goes to the panel members and the folks in the chat. But I'm really trying to get through this in like 10 minutes. So, if I'm speaking through, that's why. But you definitely have the ability to ask questions or stop me at any point. So when it comes to communicating your boundaries, it's important to identify what your non-negotiables are. It's important to communicate assertively and to maintain consistency. So being able to do this, and I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this rather than trying to, write all this in your notes. But this is important in communicating what those boundaries are to your partners or potential partners. And of course, prioritizing personal time, but you can communicate that in the way that you do. Okay. So as we get into our discussion, we're going to talk about, you know, speaking from our own experiences and perspectives, you know, when you see signs in a relationship that, hey, this is time to fold, it's time to move on, these are certain things that you will look for. Now, this is not a complete list. I really want to hear from the panel, like what your list is, but this is just some things to look for. Number one, disrespect for boundaries. So, as I mentioned, if you never establish those boundaries, you can't really hold anyone to them. So, this could be like something that you feel a boundary is crossed, but if you have not communicated that to your partner, that number one, that's a problem. That's something that you can fix on your end. But anyway, disrespect for boundaries, emotional or physical harm. So emotional abuse can hurt just as much as physical abuse. Sometimes those wounds last even longer. Um, Incompatibility with your core values, which is why that whole self-reflection, self-awareness is very important. What are your core values? How do you know if if a person is incompatible with them if you haven't really established them for yourself? So again, it's important to know what those are and to look for these things when you're choosing a mate or in a relationship, and you're making the decision like, is this right for me? I don't know. Like, I believe this. These are my core values, and this person is living outside of that. Okay, that's a sign. Lack of personal growth. If you get into a relationship and you are all of a sudden stagnant, you are not growing, they're not growing. You are, you're dealing with so much turmoil or just so many things within a relationship that's stunting your growth. That may be a sign. That's just my opinion. We'll talk about it. Signs that it's worth holding on. Because there are some relationships that even though we go through conflict and we have adversity, they are worth saving and they're worth, putting your time and energy into to figure out how to make it work. So these are signs of healthy relationships when you want to hold on. Okay. The opposite of the other signs, right? There was no mutual respect. Now we have mutual respect for boundaries. Okay. You have established boundaries on both sides. and you both mutually respect them. There's consistent support and understanding. That's a great sign of a healthy relationship. You have shared growth and goals. Coming together as one, especially as in a marriage, it's important that you have shared goals and that you support each other's growth. So very important. Um, Enhancing your personal well-being. Great sign of a healthy relationship. Fulfillment of your core needs. Again, you have to kind of understand what your needs are and your goals and your values and your beliefs, all of that before you get into a relationship so that you can understand when those when you're with a partner that is compatible with you in those ways. So very important. Kind of went through that. I don't need to go through that. So when you're in a healthy relationship, now I didn't put the slide for how to deal with people when you're in a toxic relationship because I am not promoting that. But when you're in a healthy relationship and you want to set those boundaries, it's important, I was taking a screenshot of this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's important to, like I said, communicate what those boundaries are, be open to compromise, hold some space for emotions. This is from the male and the female side. This is not biased in this way that we actually set those boundaries in a healthy relationship. Always assume good intent in a healthy relationship. Right now, in a toxic relationship, okay, the intent may not be there, but in a healthy relationship, you've established that you all have common goals, that you all in line with core values, and there's mutual respect. So assume good intent. Don't always like jump to a negative response to certain things when you're establishing boundaries. And repair when needed. None of us are perfect. Sometimes there are going to be mistakes that are made. Sometimes there might be, boundaries that might be crossed that need to be addressed. But it's important when we're in a healthy relationship to not immediately treat it like the same way we would treat a toxic one. Like, oh, I see one bad thing, I'm gone. Like, no, some of these like might require some change on your side, and guess what? That's growth. So very important. All right, now I'm ready to discuss this. Okay, so I gave y'all the game. I hope you took notes. It's only free the first time. But now I'm ready to hear from my panel members. So we're going to get into our discussion. So let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, I see some comments coming through. Expressing empathy. Yes, that's very important. Okay, let me remove it. All right. What y'all think? Did I cover
Well,
anything? Miss anything? What you got to say? What? Hit me, hit me.
I think I think it's like a simple complexity. It's so simple but yet so complex. I feel like, in the words of Aisha on Poetic Justice, I ain't in the business of keeping nobody that don't want to be kept. If I'm willing to try and you willing to try and we really serious about trying, then we hold them. If I'm willing to try and you not willing to try, then we fold them. If you willing to try and I'm not willing to try, then we fold them. And I mean, that's the simple version. I'm not emotionally attached to your situation to give you advice on when to hold them and when to fold them for you. But I think that you definitely got to be aware of the badadgery because people give you just enough to stay to utilize your resources,
Mm.
but they won't let you, you know what I mean, all the way go. So it's like you got to decide for yourself. Sometimes you got to break your own heart, even if they still willing to give you enough just to stay. You got to make that decision. You feel me, for yourself when you gonna have enough of it.
Yeah, I was. I was gonna say, the way I view things in today's relationship status is, it's like there's no code of ethics anymore about relationships. You know, people are just gonna, like you said, you know, they'll do just enough to keep you home, keep you home on base. And if you don't actually demand more or ask for more, they won't give any more in a lot of cases. You know, but they'll expect the world. A lot of people just expect things to, you know, to be just given. And nobody really wants to work. Nobody wants to be, a lot of times you say honesty. A lot of people aren't just honest, you know. Um, we're in a world that's opened up so much that people can find out a lot of things. And a lot of people say honesty. There's not a lot of honest people out here. A lot of people aren't honest with themselves about a lot of stuff. So you can't expect them to be really honest with you. You know, it can grow, and the more, I guess, the comfort that you get with the person, but it takes time. You know, it really does.
So, LaDonna, one of the things I would like to say, hey, everybody,
Hey.
I really liked how you presented your the information almost like instructional, because we'll get our cell phones, we'll get our televisions, we'll get our computers, and we'll read the instructions. But when it comes to love and relationships, we'll wing it. And then, or we'll go off of what we grew up on or what we heard. But honestly, understanding that there is a structure to love and communication is mind blowing for a lot of people. It's like, it can't be this technical. Surely it's like Cinderella or Snow White, you know. It's like, and like Marcus was saying about being honest, I think a lot of times people think they're being honest. You know, sometimes you don't even know that you're being vague about what you really want because you're vague with yourself. So some of those questions need like a technological explanation, like, hey, this is toxic. I think, to be honest, a lot of us don't know what we don't know. And we don't know when we're perpetuating toxic relationships. We have no idea, because it's how we grew up, it's our community, it's how our moms were, our uncles were. And so we're not quite sure. And so we discover something, go, what? That ain't right. You know, like, nobody's supposed to talk to you like that. That's not the way it's supposed to go. So I think a lot of times people understanding what is honest, like when something is actually what you're not supposed to be putting up with, and they're not sure. And so I really like how you presented that, because it's like, hey, if somebody is doing this is why you're in that rotation of where you're doing the same thing over and over again, because you're not realizing that that's actually a toxic behavior.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, and you know what? I think I agree with you're saying. Like, we do just wing it, right? So we don't have a manual. There are, you know, other cultures that do. They have like a whole, you know, dating, mating, courting, relationship manuals, but oftentimes, like you said, we're winging it. We're looking at, you know, what we experienced in our childhoods and all of that. So that actually brings me to my first question. So I'm gonna start with you, Damon, because I feel like you just like, you know, you sitting on the edge of your seat, like, I got to say.
I'm listening. Go ahead. What's your first question?
Okay. So, how do you feel that the way that we grew up and what we saw growing up as far as relationships, how do you feel like that has influenced our current relationships? Not, and I mean, I want you to like be personal, like in your life, the relationships that you saw, how did those influence relationships that you are in today or have been in, or
Well, I feel like there's two things that are influencing our relationships right now. One is definitely whatever we saw at home. So we usually are going to do one of two things. We're either going to copy what we saw, or we're going to do the total opposite of what we saw, right? So we may have had loving parents who doted on each other and were communicated and did all the things that were healthy. And so we're like, oh, I like that. I want to do that. Or we grew up in households where people argued and yelled and fought and did all kind of destructive, toxic things, and we're like, I don't want that, right? So the home is influencing your decisions, but the other thing that's influencing our decisions is that we consume a lot of media, right? So whether it be social media, whether it be TV, movies, the conversations we have with our friends in our neighborhood and communities, and that kind of forms our ideas of our relationships. A lot of people will say, hey, when you're in a relationship, you're supposed to do this, or you treat a person like this. And when you have a group of people in your community or in your atmosphere, say your environment, that are reinforcing that behavior, you begin to think that that's normal. Like we normalize certain things. We normalize a lot of toxic behavior, and that's because we're consuming this media. And whether, like I said, whether it's on your phone or your TV or even the conversations you have, you're consuming so much of it that it starts to become like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to act like this, and a man's supposed to be like this, and a woman's supposed to be like this. And so it doesn't give you the opportunity to develop your own idea of what's healthy. Heather said something earlier about honesty, but I think the word we're looking for is really truth instead of honesty, because I can be honest with you, you can be honest with me, and we could both be saying the same thing, but it's not healthy for us, right? I could be telling you what's honest for me, and you could be saying what's honest for you, and it could still not be healthy for us because it's not the truth. The truth is something that neither one of us can debate. We can't argue about whether it is healthy for us to punch each other in the face. Like, we know that's the truth. But there are people in relationships who get punched in the face every Wednesday, and that's normal for them. And that's they're honest. They're on, oh, well, it just happens. The person gets upset. It's no big deal. I just deal with it. They're being honest with you, but that's not healthy and it's not the truth. So I think some of the relationships that we're in, because we're, again, getting our information from places that aren't necessarily built to give us the truth and help keep us in healthy relationships, we end up in these things that we normalize. We normalize toxic behavior. We normalize unhealthy behavior. We don't like just the way we communicate with one another. That some people grew up in houses where people spoke loudly, like everyone's volume is elevated in their house, right? So then they leave their house and get in their own house, and now they're elevating their voice with their new partner. But their new partner may not have came from that. So now you're bringing what you had in your house, mixing with what they had in their house, and you're trying to find a happy medium that's healthy for both people. So I think it's two things. It's the media that we consume, and it's also like what we saw growing up as kids, whether it's in our home or our neighborhood. That kind of guides us. We either follow it or we run away from it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Like how has your childhood, the way you saw your parents, your grandparents, how they navigated relationships affect how you are currently, dealing with relationships? I know that, back in the day, I'm gonna skip my mother's generation. I'm gonna go back to my grandmother's generation. Like, they stayed in relationships, like, no matter what.
But that was because of survival, though. That was to
That's
survive.
what I actually was gonna speak on that, because I grew up. I was born in the South. I was born in Florida, and everyone in my family's married. Like, my grandparents were married for 65 years. My aunts, uncles, the same people that they married by the time I was 2 years old, they either are still married to this day or they are widowed from that person. And so for me, growing up, I always thought that you just weather the storm. You just weather the storm. I mean, I would see, now as a child, I grew up in a family predominantly of women. So as a child, I assumed that, if I were more submissive, then, because that's what I saw in a family of women that's been married for eons, I saw submission. So, but growing up in a different generation, but taking the lessons, I assumed that if I were submissive, then I would have, if I do what he wants, he'll give me what I need. If I was submissive enough, then I would get what I needed. And so as a child, that's how I processed that. And so I assumed that when I became a woman, that if I was just a submissive woman, then everything else that I needed would follow suit.
And
so
how has that
to your
worked out for you?
Oh, friend.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
Is it working?
no, not
No?
in that regard. No, but I would like to say that it was a flawed system from the beginning. It was a flawed system from the beginning. I mean, to be in a situation where you constantly have to give, as a person of color, where a man doesn't have the power to give it to you back, it creates a complicated system. So it was flawed from the beginning. But as a woman, that's what you have to go on. So you think, okay, I'll do what he needs. He'll give me what I want.
Can I say something?
There's a
Go
ahead.
Marcus.
I don't necessarily see it that way. Like I think that there's this perception that the relationships of old, our ancestors, our grandparents, stayed in relationships because of survival, and I have, I've seen it be the situation where they stayed together because they were principled. You know what I mean? Like it had nothing to do with, if I'm not with you, I ain't gonna be able to eat. Like they worked, everybody worked. The men worked, the women worked. I don't know when we're talking about the Black community, we've never owned the concept of men only going to work. Like the women worked in homes that were not our homes, raising children that were not their children. All throughout history, that's been the norm. They stayed together because they had the principle based on the ministry of what marriage was. And it was in the vows of the marriage, for better, for worse, richer, for poor, sickness and in health, till death do us part. And they stood on principle. They had values. They were not just like, oh, let me cling to you because the Klan's coming. Like that's just not the energy that I get when I talk to these couples that are elderly. I saw one today at the wedding I went to, and they've been together for 60 years. And nothing she said had to do with survival. It literally had everything to do with, this is your partner in crime, so to speak. Through up and down, y'all stick together. You chose this person. This is the life you chose. If marriage is what you want, understand that it comes with these principles. And I honestly feel like that's a strength message, not the deficit message of, let's stick through this because we all we got. Like it was just, it was empowering to hear that it's not about anything other than finding someone that you want to do this life with and honoring your word. Like I think that's one of the things that we've gotten away from. Our word don't mean shit.
It's generational, right?
I mean,
it's
generational
because we live in an Amazon society, which says I like something, but if I don't like it, I can send it back and get something else. I ain't got to keep it and work with it. I just get rid of it and get another one. I just, I don't have to
7-day trial.
Yeah, I don't have to commit to nothing. Yeah, I ain't got to commit to nothing. Yeah, I see it, I want it, I get it. Oh, I don't like it, send it back. Okay, let me get another one. Let me get another one. So we're in that society where we're just kind of like, if that person chews too loud, I don't want them no more. Let me get rid of them and give me somebody else that don't chew loud. It's like we just jump from thing to thing to thing to thing because we have options and because like Michael said, we don't carry those same principles. We don't have that same thought pattern that I took these vows and I need to stay with this person. It's like, yeah, I took these vows, but I ain't getting what I want, so I'm gone. So I think we're in our society is one that's just not. We're not committing like that. We don't hold those things close to the vest.
Structure.
I think Marcus has something to say though.
Okay, go ahead, Nip, then for Fatima.
Marcus was up. That's what.
Yeah, Marcus had something to say.
No, ladies
Oh.
first. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll let
I
ladies.
already spoke once.
No,
So
Marcus,
go
go ahead. It's fine. It's
No,
fine.
no, I was just getting ready to say, like, there's structure. We don't, a lot of times we don't have structure anymore. There's a hierarchy when it comes to, and that's what people don't want to realize, that there is a hierarchy when it comes to this life that we live. If you want someone, there's someone that's going to handle certain things a certain way, maybe better than what you do it, but there has to be some sort of structure in relationships. You know, I'm from the South, single mother home. But I turned out to be a single father, you know. So it's just about, like, you have to take those things, like we're saying, from our grandparents and certain things. You can take certain things and you grow from those, and you put those in your toolbox. But some things were right, some things weren't so right. And it's on you as an adult, as you grow, to kind of like chart your own course, your own path in this world, from your children to, I see more people in the dating scene. I'm like, I've been in dating scenarios and see where I have women that'll say something to me in a certain way, but won't hold their children accountable in certain stuff. Like, you can't tell a man like certain stuff, and you won't even, your kids, right? Like, really? Like, yeah. So there's hierarchy, and we're teaching our kids and grandkids and certain things that doesn't hold weight anymore. Like you said, you can just pick up and go. People can change it. I don't like this. And it's so easy to just walk away from people. But then when you look at it, like, I really said, I love this person. You sleep next to this person every night. You know, you share moments and certain things. But if one thing goes wrong or something, you're so easy to just drop it. So how serious was it from the jump? You know?
Okay.
That's it.
Fatima, we wanted to chime in on this.
Well, I don't want to be too long. I think I agree with what everybody said. I think we're all talking about the same coin, just two different sides. I think life is all about balance, right? So Heather brought up a valid point. From a woman's perspective, we also have to understand, like, we're all products of slavery. Black people here in North America, we're unlike any other of our relatives that are a part of the original family. Like, we are just genetically different now as a result of being descendants of slavery. And I know that, you know, sometimes bringing up slavery feels like, you know, beating a dead horse, but it must be beat, because we have to understand that Black people in North America are completely genetically different. So there's science to prove that fear, right, is an inherited genetic idea. And so just this whole idea of, like, us being illiterate, right? And thinking about not just the educational system of America in general is shit in comparison to the whole world, but then we're Black people in North America just being permitted to, like, actually learn how to read and have the privilege of reading, you know, not too long ago, right? And so when you're talking about education, for so long, even after, quote unquote, we were permitted to, the Black woman and the woman in general, even in America, white women were oppressed by their men. You can't do this. You can't talk when men are talking. You can't preach. You can't blah. There was a lot of things women could not do. So now we're talking about this era of not just, we got to talk about the layers, right? Because there's layers, right? There's the way it's supposed to be that the men are talking about, this hierarchy. Yes, it's God, man, woman, children. Like, there's this hierarchy, there's this ranking. We understand that's how it's supposed to be. But then we have to talk about how we get here, right? And so we have these layers. So you got this slavery element, and then you have this chauvinistic element that crosses racial barriers, right? In general, right? And so now you have this era of women that we're talking about our grandparents and so forth that lived in this period where women were disproportionately uneducated, period. They did not have access to going out, learning a skill, learning a trade. That was something that the man did. So now you have women, you know, who are groomed by generations of mothers. I didn't say dumb, I didn't say stupid, but illiterate, right? Their access to knowledge and information is limited, right? So when you limit somebody's knowledge, you limit what? Their range of activity, their productivity. So this is what was happening to Black women. And so you have this other layer now where Black women in 2024 are educated. Baby, we picking up books and we reading, we got trades and skills and all kind of things. So we don't really have this fear of doing it alone that we used to have, our great grandparents had, our grandmothers had. Even my grandmother, my dad is, you know, from South Carolina, and my grandmother, my mom is from Mexico. But guess what? My grandmother from Mexico, she was married to a Black man in Mexico. He had babies all over Mexico. He got about so many children. My mom don't even know all her siblings. Okay. He used to beat my grandmother. He was an alcoholic. Even in Hispanic culture, the men are very chauvinistic, or can be, you know what I mean? Not all, but I'm saying that this is a cultural thing, especially in impoverished areas. And so that's something that we witnessed here too. Like, you make babies, you shut up, you don't listen to your woman. She's only good for these specific things. So I think, to Heather's point, there's a lot of validity to that aspect in that era where women were being kind of suppressed to be not so much the helpmeet that God intended for a woman to be, but to be a, if you will, a resource to the man. That's a totally different perspective, right? To be a resource versus a helpmeet. Because still in that, when you're looking at the woman as the helpmeet, the way God intended, now you're looking at her being able to strengthen you into making you a whole being, a complete being, right? That's the whole process, helping you meet a goal, a vision, right? So she's not limited to one aspect of your life, which is your sexual desires, how clean your house is, or, you know, those things, or your food or whatever. Those things are extremely important, and I'm not diminishing the value of that. But the Black woman, and the woman in particular, has so much more power and talent and gifts that far surpasses those aspects. So I think, to Heather's point, that was something that came to my mind. But then, to the men's point, we do have to grow to a point as women in 2024 to find that balance, to see the beauty in the way God originally created everything. Because a woman is naturally to be submissive to a man. He did not make woman first and say, man got to be a helpmeet. But a lot of times in these relationships, we hear the women talk about how the man is supposed to help her. It's like, that's not our nature, right? We're not, you know, looking for a husband to help us meet our goals, right? We're looking for, or we're looking to be sought after, so that man that God has designed for us, we can help him meet those goals. And that fulfills the aspect of who we are and why we were created. So there is a reason. Our natures are very different. And I think us not understanding that creates these arguments that just aren't really valid, right? I'm not expecting my man to nurture me, right? I'm not expecting that. He doesn't have breasts. That's not a part of his nature. He doesn't breastfeed babies. We do. We have a very natural nurturing instinct. They don't. Do I expect him to be kind? Yes. But his expression of kindness looks very different than mine. So it's like, you know, I think in a realistic way, like, we have to kind of just get that specific and, you know, detail oriented when we start attacking these subjects, because it really just gets far from us, I think. Because both perspectives I completely agree with, and I think that there's a balance and a middle ground to synthesize them both.
Yeah. What do you want to say, Nip?
I was gonna say, I think that in this day and age, the emasculation of men and the defeminization of women makes it to where nobody knows the roles anymore. Nobody has like a clear cut set. Like in the 50s, it was set and copy, cut, and paste. Every house down the block, all the men went to work at 8 o'clock. All the dinner was home, when they got home at 6. Everybody, you know what I mean? The kids did this, like it was programmed all the way across the board. So now we've never updated that software. Here we are in 2024 with so many different dynamics, and it's never been updated. So it's like at some point in time, everybody needs to sit down and say, okay, what are the new roles? Because the emasculation of men, I feel like if I'm not ready to shoot it in the face right now, you feel like I ain't no man, but like, and then you want a extra sensitive man, and then as soon as he display that, oh, now he's a punk. I don't want you, you know what I mean? But you push for these men to be emotionally available, and then you flip, and now you hardcore and you too tough. And now we've switched roles at this point. So I think that we need to clearly define, because a lot of women, I'll say for me in my experience, what they say they want is when it's actually played out, that's not what they really want. Right. They don't respect that.
I think they want it, they just don't know how to manage it. Like at the end of the day, we need to step back and look at a macro level that we are in an insane society.
Correct.
And we're basically trying to find balance where there is none. We're not evolving, and we're not really addressing the issues that are on the table. You know what I mean? Like if economics is the issue on the table, that needs to be the topic, not how we got the economics, but whether we have it or not. If housing is the issue, that's what we need to be talking about. Not who brings it home, but is it a home? You know what I'm saying? Like I just feel like in some instances, I understand why we fragmented out into gender rules or roles, as you were saying. Like it's, oh, was it? I think Marcus said, my bad. But it was, at the end of the day, it was just, in 2024, we need to discover, is the narrative that's out there actually true? Like we were talking about what's honesty and what's true. The narrative that's out there is, when we talk about our grandparents, they stayed, even though they were having kids everywhere, they stayed because they needed to stay, or women couldn't get loans. And it's so many social factors that came into play that had nothing to do with Black people. Like, we didn't structure America to be sexist. You dig what I'm saying? Like, but we grew up in it. So, but at the end of the day, our women were working when white women were not. They were at home with the Black woman raising their kids while they was, I don't know what they were doing. But the point is, our women, my family, my grandmother left her first husband, my grandfather, because he was abusive. She packed up, left, and went to New York City on her own with her son, my uncle. My mother was at Morris Brown. My uncle was a kid, and she had to leave her husband because my uncle was going to kill his father. I'm putting my family's business out there. But the point is that Black women have been doing what they needed to do, whether they were in a relationship or not. Black men have been doing what they needed to do, regardless, because we've been in survival mode the entire time we've been in this country. We haven't been able to really relax into the conveniences of, the white picket fence, with the 2.5 kids and the dog and boo, 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 boo. What are we measuring ourselves against when we talk about if we're successful? What are we comparing ourselves to?
Leave it to Beaver.
I would say,
okay.
I think we're measuring ourselves against our desires.
But where do they come from?
The American dream, though.
I was going to say the American dream.
So let me ask you a question. So,
hold on. I want to answer that, please. Like where? Because this is not directed. It's not directed at Heather. but I want to hear where Heather's where do her desires come from, because that's kind of the point that I was making.
Okay, well, let me ask this question, and Heather, you can start with you answering it. I think this is what Mikkel is asking. Okay. So, where or what is your example of a healthy relationship? What is your example of a healthy relationship, and where did that come from?
Okay. So I'm going to answer it in two parts. So I'm going to start with the desire question. I'm going to start with my example of a healthy relationship, and then I'm going to go into the desire. My example of a healthy relationship is my father. My father was with the same person for 33 years. Never heard an argument about finances, morality, or infidelity, which for me were the main three. Don't mess with my money. We are on the same page in morality, and what I think is going on in this relationship is what's going on in this relationship. Everything else we can discuss, argue about, but I'm holding on to you and you are holding on to me. That was my understanding of a healthy relationship. And in that relationship, neither one of those people had vices that would keep them from interrupting any one of those three things. So there was nothing that was going to mess up their money, morality, or that it was on the same page. I think anytime you're feeling like the direction you're going in is enough is what you're gauging it against. It's different for every person. I don't think anybody can come into your household and say, well, the man of this house needs to do this, or the woman of this house needs to do that. Whatever makes that couple progress and you feel fulfilled in that, that's what's guiding the relationship. So if you feel that way, then that's what makes you feel like, yeah, let's keep going. Let's, there's enough here to move forward. I don't think I have a cookie cutter idea of what determines that a relationship is willing to move forward. I think everyone in this group is probably different if we each said our own thing.
Right. But so Heather, I can you, because I want you to continue, but a thought keeps coming to my head, and I would like you to, if you can, expound on that part about not having a cookie cutter kind of structure, and everybody's kind of different. The reason I because I'm thinking in my mind, like I think that that's how we've been operating for so long. I think that's so
exactly
true. I think that's
exactly.
So true.
I think that Black, especially in regards to Black relationships, because Black life, I wrote this poem called Black People Don't Do That. Mm-hmm. It's like there's so many things that society has decided that Black people don't do.
Correct.
And I think that we have been pigeonholed in regards to our relationship, in regards to what our men do and what our women do, and Correct. What that looks like in a relationship. And we are trying to force ourselves. Well, I'm too Black for that. Correct. And we haven't been allowed to be individually people in a relationship. Not in regards to what society says we are as a Black woman. Mm-hmm. or what a Black man is, mm-hmm. Whatever. If you're anything outside of that, is what I mean by cookie cutter. When you're not a music video, you're not a stereotypical Black sitcom. You have decided to be your own individual person, and what that relationship is for you and your mate. I think that we. Earlier, Mikkel was saying that it doesn't seem like we're evolving, but I feel like Black people are evolving, and we're evolving into individuality. Right. We are evolving into being individual, uniquely thinking people that are into different arts and art forms and expressions of ourselves. And that is what's happening in our relationships. And we're getting together and we're like, nah, I'm not into that. So when I
Right.
say cookie cutter, I mean things that aren't typical. That
Yeah, no,
says,
I agree. I think because that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like, I agree that is the current status, but I'm conflicted when I think about how progressive that is for us as a whole, because ultimately the success of other races has been contingent upon their ability to unite and come together and set aside differences to find common ground. And I think that we're so in a space of individuality. I'm like so eager to be different that I'm gonna just do shit just because it's different, not because I truly want it, but I just want to stand out. You know what I'm saying? I think we're craving that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, considering everything we've been through. But how progressive is it really when it comes down to the fact that it's pushing us further and further away from uniting, especially in a time where we're in the middle of a crisis, when we're talking about. Go ahead.
To answer your question, I believe that one of the things that other races have allowed themselves to have the privilege of is that two things can be true at once. Two things can be true at once. We can be different and be united. And I think that is the thing that as Black people, we have to allow ourselves, that to be different doesn't mean to not be a community of Black. And I think that if we give our community the option to be two things at once, to where I think, let's take, for example, white America. White America can allow themselves to have different ideas and still be united in their whiteness. And so I think that Black people can give ourselves permission to do the same, to where we can be two things at once.
And that's I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's what I was trying to get to when you made the comment about the individuality in relationships, and the every relationship is different in how they structure it. I think that's where we're coming in, and we're finding common ground between, like, kind of what you're saying, and Marcus, and the guys are saying, is that two things can be true at once, right? So I can be an individual. Like, I'm been married 14 years, going on 14 years this year. And I tell people all the time, I'm my own person. And so is my husband. However, we are in the process of being united. We are a united front at the same time, and I think that there has to be something in place, to your point, when you were talking about the morality issue, something in place in terms of morality. That's where structure stems from. It's like, what belief systems do we have in common? Period. Right. Okay, individual personality, my hair is purple, yours is green. Okay, that's fine. But what do we believe that is the same? What are our boundaries? Okay, so are you open to threesomes in your marriage? No, I'm not. Then maybe you're not the fit for me. So I'm not going to infringe upon what you want to do, but that's not going to work in this dynamic. And I think at a certain point, to have these kind of conversations, there has to be and I think this is what was so great about what LaDonna did with the slideshow. It's like that may conflict with some people's views or how they're doing or how they operate, but we got to start somewhere. We got to start cleaning up somewhere in terms of a moral structure, something. We can't just continue to encourage, do what you want to do when you want to do it because you're grown, because it's not helping us progress when it comes to the family unit. Compromises and sacrifices, we got to get back to being willing to make those. I'm not dictating which ones you need to make, but I am saying you got to be willing to make some. I think that's kind of what I was.
I think the unity that we had in the civil rights movement was the unity that we need today. But, you know, J. Edgar Hoover decided that that was the biggest threat to American society was black unity. And then come the second greatest tragedy after racism, which is the crack epidemic. And then we had to basically start all over again from that. You know what I mean? And that was specifically designed to break up the unity in our community that we had. We had unity. We was just broke and we was crying about it. So, you know, we made advancements. So, okay, let me give y'all a few jobs. Let me give a few of y'all some sports contracts. Let me let you in the NBA. Let me let you in the, you know what I mean? Let's start giving them something so they can forget about all this unity stuff, because I think they just want unity because they want more money. Let's give them more money and they're going to spend it with us anyway. And then, you know, that'll suffice. But we don't have no unity.
Which is right. And I believe, like, besides the biggest movements, besides the woman's movement, is the gay movement right now.
Yeah.
Men have always, we're at the bottom of the totem pole. Black men at the bottom of this totem pole. I don't care what anybody says. And
Do
people
you
just
feel
don't
like there's never been a black man's movement?
I can't say a movement. I think there's just advancements. I don't think it's a movement. It's just an advancement.
Advancement specifically for black men.
But it's created by us.
No, the only
The
thing
Million
that we
Man
had,
March.
hold on.
Well, yeah,
I was gonna. The first man movement was Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah,
and then,
I said, but it was created by us. Yeah,
but it was created. And that was Calvin Coolidge that realized that was a threat to America.
Correct.
Like anytime we have any collective movement, it is seen as a threat and it is attacked, whether it's economic empowerment, whether it is through real estate, whether it's through banking. Right. Anytime either they send the IRS after us, they said, like, it's y'all, and I don't know if y'all pay attention, but the people that are watching this, like, pay attention. Like, anytime we establish some form of a movement, there's something that comes out that either discredits it or makes it seem like it's not that serious.
Right.
We just, I mean, like our families. Think about our families. Like, you know, we this stigma that black men are in the homes. Yeah, if you go back and do the numbers a bit, but it's always perpetuated and used against us, even though you know it's not true. A lot of people know it's not true, but they'll continue because that's a way of just, you know, kind of like smothering out that fire. Yeah, we'll keep saying it, even though you know it's not true, but we'll keep saying it because it plays into that stigma that pretty much that society wants. Like my grandmother had a saying she used to tell my sister as they were getting older, they was teens, and she's seeing how things are moving. You can't expect one old school values with new school ways. It doesn't work because you're gonna bump heads, and everybody wants it. It's like the women's movement. I look at it like I love the advancement. I love the fact that if you're qualified for the job, you get the job. You should get the pay that comes with whether man or woman. If you deserve that pay, you get it. And I look at it like, okay, the advancements that go forward with that, okay, you're jumping light years ahead, but then you expect the man to stay like we in the 60s. That doesn't add up. How do you want us to stay like that? And you just keep advancing and advancing, but then it's like, okay, as a man, you keep taking care of this, taking care of this, taking care of that. It's we have to have some type of right.
Basically, y'all, the women are NASA and we waste management.
Okay, all right. Let's. No, this is great. This is a great discussion. We can debate this all night. But let's get back on topic.